network that we built up over a year or two. Every morning, we leafleted the induction center. We would have several people there to meet the bus coming in and also to meet the employees. We got to be on a first-name basis with the employees. Ultimately, one started to give us information. We felt that was a real coup, real sabotage operation. It allowed us to have people in about 10 different points around upstate New York where induction center buses were leaving, and they'd be bringing those buses to Syracuse. The one in Jefferson County was in Lyons Falls. The draft people were freaked out when our people showed up at the exact time that the bus from Lyons Falls was leaving, because it only came there once a month. They couldn't figure out how, we knew that. We showed up at both ends, Lyons Falls and in Syracuse. We had a counselor and activists in all those areas. We had a leaflet that had the name and number of a draft counselor in each of the cities. We had a map that had little dots on areas where we needed a little more work, just like the military does. We felt that it was really, really an accomplishment. In Dick's words, he says, I'll let you read the last paragraph. Yeah, that's Dick's words.
I vacillate between being an anarchist and a socialist or being neither. It's never been a big issue for me. Gandhi said that probably nothing you do in your life will make any difference, but it is absolutely essential that you do it anyway. Faulkner said that there's only a certain number of things you can do in your life, and you might as well do what you do and enjoy as much as you can. I could relate to that.
So those are Dick's words from the SPC Oral History, September 1983. I'm just going to name off a partial list of all the projects that he and a whole bunch of other people organized in the 1970s. In these pictures you're seeing that are black and whites, you're seeing David Easter, Chris Murray, John Mattis, Marilyn Miller, Glenn Woodkin, so many people that lived in the Westcott Nation. Some of you are still alive and you know who you are. Dozens of people he worked with. I have to mention the Indochina Peace Campaign because that influenced me so much too, and Karen tells you how it was a big project here. I think expanding the Peace newsletter is something he's been given credit for from a mimeograph sheet of paper. Organizing the Direct Action Project for draft assistance. And if you didn't recognize the name, the credit in the oral history is with Sari Knop Bicklin, if you remember Doug Bicklin at Syracuse University. They were both at Syracuse University. Fighting for the release of political prisoners in South Vietnam. We think of the peace accords, but that wasn't the end of the war, and thousands, I'm sorry, I know I'm going to cry, but there were thousands and thousands of prisoners, old ladies, children, and there was a campaign to publicize the infamous tiger cages they were kept in. And then on the happier note, he and Lois Leviton and Lisa Johns and Barb Kobritz and then later Carol Baum, they formed the Front Room Bookstore, and we ended up with records and books and all kinds of things. You can see through so much of what he did in the 70s what's going to come next after this. The Plowshares Craftsfair, he is mentioned by other people as being part of creating that. I'd love to hear more history of the Plowshares Craftsfair. And the last thing I have on my list, which is not the whole thing, was supporting Native American sovereignty. With the Peace newsletter, with Monday night potlucks, with speaker events, we were educated by Indigenous people about the Wounded Knee occupation in the 1970s, about the Onondaga Nation, about Dennis Banks and other Indigenous political prisoners. a very memorable show of support that I was a part of. Seemed a little ad hoc, but Dick organized a carload of us in the late 70s to bring a trunk full of peace newsletters up to the sovereign nation of Ghanaian, I think is how you say it, and there was an occupation up there to establish a sovereign nation, and we featured articles on it, so we drove up there. William was there. We were in Lillian Reiner's car, a reliable car. And we got stopped, of course, at the Canadian border because we did go over to the Mohawk territory on the other side of the river. That I believe on both sides of the river, Akwesasne was the name for the area. But we did get stopped. They probably asked us, "Why are you coming into Canada?" And Dick probably said the truth, that we're going to Akwesasne. So I remember they opened the truck, they looked at what we had, they talked to us, and they let us through. From the early 70s, I think Dick saw in me that I was a live wire that liked to get things done, and he pulled me into all kinds of projects, and that's one acknowledgement I wanted to make, was he recognized people and would pull them in. And I think I remember that other people in the Peace Council in the late 70s said, "Oh, he's already got you on the calendar committee? Darn it, we wanted you to do this." But I got snapped up for the calendar committee. And Chris Murray and Dick took me under their wing, taught me all the social activist organizing skills that I didn't have yet. William started a year ahead of me, so he had a little bit of a foothold ahead of me. I have to say that when I came on staff was the beginning of the nuclear plant opposition and the celebration of what we could all do together to stop the nuclear plants. Like Dick described in his oral history, he taught me by example that forming relationships with people is the core of organizing, human-to-human conduct. And that we can reach people in all different ways, through the heart as much as, or even more than, through our minds. He inspired us all to become better people and move us to action to build the future we want to leave behind. He dared to live visions, put out his big ideas, and work to make them reality, and that's what I feel I got from him. I'm going to read just a few sentences from David Easter, and then William Sunderland will have some comments to say too. Get the right piece of paper here from David Easter. David Easter was the first staff person, I believe, at the Peace Council, and Dick Cool was the second. David says, "I met him shortly after he got out of prison in 1969. I was working at the Syracuse Peace Council, and Ben Shove, Dick's lawyer, suggested we talk together. Soon Dick was working with me. We continued as colleagues until I left the Peace Council in 1974. Dick certainly did work to build up the organization. He was the lead person on many projects, and he worked with Sam Feld, a steering committee member, to purchase the house at 924 Burnett Avenue. I also remember Dick secured the large printing press from a printer he knew, which we put in the basement, and that allowed us to print 11 by 17 posters. He was a major person starting the Plowshares Craft Show. Dick was a very good friend. We were in a men's consciousness-raising group together for several years, which involved a great deal of personal sharing. I was very lucky to have known him." David Easter.
I first met Dick in late 1976 I was a 22-year-old youngster joining the Syracuse Peace Council staff. Dick was 33 and had already been on staff for several years. Dick's public stand against the Vietnam War, refusal to participate in selective service, and willingness to go to prison left a deep impact on me that lasts until this day. He was the ultimate role model, a courageous and outspoken proponent of the principle that nothing is more important than standing up for your beliefs and engaging in dialogue in defense of those beliefs. Dick embodied this approach every day of his adult life. Who else do I know who wore political messages and statements like some people wear jewelry? No one. Dick was not only a paragon of progressive principles, but was also extremely likable and fun to be around. Dick addressed the world with an infectious sense of humor and laughter, despite, or maybe even because of the grim injustices that were never far from his consciousness. We all knew and loved Dick for his unrelenting defiance of authority. In my experience, there were funny moments associated with this defiance. One day in the early 1980s, Dick and I left the Peace Council office on Burnett Avenue in separate cars, heading to Plymouth Congregational Church to do setup for Plowshares. Upon arrival at Plymouth, it took me a long time to find a parking space. When I entered Plymouth Church, Dick was already well underway setting up. I said, "Dick, how the hell did you get here so fast?" With a wry smile and a laugh, he answered, "I have my ways." Later that day, I noticed Dick had double parked right outside the front door of the church with his emergency lights blinking as if to say, "I'll be right back." That is where his car remained for the rest of the day. When I returned to central New York 6 years ago, after being abroad for 2 decades, I began spending time with Dick. We caught up for lost time in our reinvigorated friendship. Dick and I went for walks, attended SU women's basketball games, went out for dinner, and saw many movies, most of them at the Manlius Cinema. Dick, I was so looking forward to spending a lot more time together. Your absence breaks my heart. I am so proud and privileged to have known you. Your spirit lives on in me, and it always will.
Another song by Holly Near. Sing along if you want to.
Moving in peace, when the words spoken, why the Indian dies, for that there were people living on this land. Do our books all say it was discovered by one white man? Well, that's just a lie, one of many, and we had plenty. I don't want more to say. No one inside my head. Why are the weapons of war so young? Why men profit by killing their own sons? Why are so many of the soldiers black or brown? Do they say it's because they're good at cutting other people down? Well, that's just a lie.
was a recording of the Syracuse Community Choir singing that on our 21st anniversary. Andy Major.
Dick was a fierce, articulate, in it for the long haul cultural worker. These are just a few things he had in common with Andy.
Thank you. My connection with Dick began before I moved to Syracuse 42 years ago. I was a 20-year-old radical activist who had begun to speak out publicly about my refusal to register for the draft. My partner, Karen Beadle, had moved to Syracuse to work at the Peace Council and told me about Dick and his imprisonment for resisting the Viet Nam War. Dick and I had an immediate, sweet relationship. We joked that some of our time together was preparation for my potential prison term, including Dick teaching me to play handball, which was a major prison sport in his day. Our love of basketball and our shared competitive spirit were other places of joy together. This was shortly before Dick founded Syracuse Cultural Workers in July of 1982, along with Jack Mano, Jan Phillips, Karen Kerney, and Linda Perla. Linda is here today with us in spirit, while Jack, Jan, and Karen are all here in person. As Cultural Workers was being developed, my organizing work focused on promoting war resistance in all its forms. In September of 1982, a group of us met with U.S. Attorney Frederick Scullin, now a federal judge. His receptionist led us into an elegant conference room. Dick surveyed the scene and sat at the head of the table, knowing it was the power spot meant for the U.S. Attorney. When Scullin came in, he looked around, sat down elsewhere, and listened politely as we urged him to make a commitment not to prosecute draft registration resistors. This was one of many examples, along with Williams, of Dick's brash, consistent refusal to kowtow to authority. Cultural Workers began with the decision to continue publishing the Peace Calendar, which Dick had started in 1972 with the Peace Council. Over the years, the calendar became an important publication to support movement work, and usually a fundraiser for the Peace Council. The 1982 calendar, the very powerful and rather dark American Myths calendar, lost money, leading the Peace Council to halt publication. SCW's founders set up a new organization to continue it. It was based on the idea that art is critical to successful social movements, that we must bring beauty and heart to our work to build a more just, peaceful, and sustainable world. They knew that the left's typical focus on facts and analysis doesn't reach enough people to make the changes we seek. In the early years, SCW published the calendar and posters, like some behind us here, organized film festivals and concerts. The first offices were in the grassroots Dandelion Collective, where Dick lived for so many years. After outgrowing that space, Dick moved the offices to the nearby Women's Information Center, where Dick's longtime partner Karen and his sister Liz were often called the mothers of the center. Within 5 years of our founding, SCW moved to a house on East Fayette Street. Unfortunately, the significant growth wasn't well managed. Dick was an activist and a committed anti-capitalist, not a businessman. SCW was essentially bankrupt. But rather than giving up, Dick dug in, learned how to run a business, invested his own money, and made hard decisions about cutting back the staff. Up to that point, Dick had largely funded the business through loans from movement supporters who knew and trusted him. This was one of several times when Dick made difficult choices to keep his dream alive. He was masterful at connecting with people and finding support to continue the fusion of art and activism he developed. George W. Bush's election led to a significant revival of SCW, particularly after the September 11th attacks and the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, which quickly followed. That improvement in SCW's situation allowed Dick to return to his passion for organizing and the Syracuse Peace Council. Dick played a key role in SPC's revitalization, spearheading fundraising and serving on a renewed steering committee for several years. When he sold SCW's offices on East Fayette Street, he generously donated all the proceeds to the creation of the Syracuse Center for Peace and Social Justice, making him the largest donor to that effort, which has supported SPC and other activist organizations ever since. Like the broader social movements of which we're a part, SCW is highly affected by larger political cycles. Ironically, when right-wing presidents, Reagan, Bush Jr., Trump, threatened democracy and launched major wars in Central America, the Middle East, or elsewhere, SCW sales climb and the business seems viable. But when moderate Democrats replace those right-wing Republicans, sales slow significantly. The nexus of Obama's election and the recession of 2008-09 created another critical moment for SCW. In order to keep the business going, Dick stopped taking a salary and waived SCW's rent for several years. Dick owns the Lodi Street building that has been our home since 2003. Dick hasn't received a wage from SCW since that time, and needless to say, there are no excess profits to extract. It is a true testament to Dick's vision that SCW has so many long-term staff, a number of whom are here with us today, despite the very low wages that we receive. When the staff gathered last week to share stories about Dick, and a few tears, many recalled his deep commitment to creating a family-friendly workplace and to build community among the staff. Our meetings always start with personal sharing. We celebrate birthdays with cake, and there's a real effort to offer the space and time people need to care for children, parents, or their own health needs, as well as getting their work done. And although most of our current staff aren't activists, one of the perks of working at SCW is that we're indeed some of those mythical paid activists that the right likes to harp on. SCW staff can protest during work time. Many of our customers are equally loyal. Last year, when we contemplated changing the calendar format, we received over 150 survey responses, with many people writing at length about how important the calendar and other products have been to them, their families, and their community. Despite slowing sales of wall calendars across the board, including our Peace Calendar, we'll sell well over 10,000 of them this year. Our How to Build Community poster can be found in homes, offices, community centers, and faith communities across the country, 25 years after it was first published. Karen Kerney recently told me that when Dick suggested creating the poster, she thought it was a ridiculous idea. After a community of people crafted the text and Karen added lovely artwork, I believe she changed her mind. Dick's vision, grit, determination, and creativity kept SCW going through good and bad times for over 40 years. In the process, he deeply affected thousands of people through the products and personal connections. Dick was particularly in his element when staffing tables and booths, whether at the Plowshares Craftsfair, which, as you've heard, he helped create the same year as the Peace Calendar started, or at national conferences across the country, which his dear friend Derek will talk about shortly. In fact, we're confident that Dick would have wanted us to violate typical protocol for a memorial service, which is why you can find an SCW table in the foyer where you can purchase calendars, women artist datebooks, t-shirts, and other merch. And of course, the family couldn't help but give out buttons as people came in. Dick's passing leaves a big hole in my life and also poses major challenges for the future of Syracuse Cultural Workers. Despite his many talents, long-term planning was not his greatest strength. And the political trends which have always deeply impacted the organization are particularly powerful right now, at the same time that Dick is no longer with us and longtime art director Karen Kerney is largely retired. We're working hard to find a path forward for SCW in the post-Dick Cool era. But it's a daunting task with many obstacles in our path. We're actively looking for people with ideas, vision, and resources to carry on Dick's dream. If you're one of those people, please reach out to me. It's been a great honor to know and work with Dick for these many years. We will carry it on. Dick Cool presente.
Thank you, Andy. We're going to have a few words by a very dear friend, a newer friend, a very dear friend of Dick's, Derek Jackson.
Let's see. I first got to know Dick very well back about 10 years ago. I retired from the fire department, moved down to D.C., and he got in touch with me and said, yeah, you want to do a show? And I said, what do you have to do? You just stand in the booth and, sell stuff to people and talk to people. You can do that. Yeah, okay, I can do that. I'll do that. So he comes down, and I worked the first show, and this is great. This is fun. All these people come in, and they just want to buy stuff from the cultural workers. It's like okay. And so Dick goes, well, how'd you like to do another show? and okay, and then another show. So as time went on, I did maybe 7 or 8 shows with Dick. Let me see. We had some big ones. It's not hard work doing these shows because you got to drive there, then you got to set up, and Dick wants to set up a specific way. And usually he's just sort of going, okay, and I'm climbing up on the chairs, putting the stuff behind things. So I'm risking my life, but and so it was a lot of fun, and I'm going to miss doing them. I stopped doing them 2018. Well, let me get back to it. Here's my notes. Okay. There's a lot of hard work doing these shows. You got to get there. The traveling. But the traveling is fun. When you're traveling with Dick, you never know what's going to happen. Okay? We stay at different hotels, because he searches out the place we're going to be. All right, so some interesting things that happened. All right, we were in this shirt, as a matter of fact. I got it at one of the shows we were working at. This jacket, reversible, very very nice jacket. All right. So you get up early in the morning. You have to drive to the convention center. So there's that commute. Then, of course, you get something to eat. Dick loves Waffle Houses. So we'd always get up at like, 6 or 7 in the morning, drive a couple hours, stop at a Waffle House, get some food, back on the road, then we'd drive for a long time again, and we'd set up, we'd meet great people. That was one of the best things about it. The people we met there, I met a UU minister with exactly my same name. We'd have to pick up our little exhibitor buttons, and he picked up one and it said, Derek Jackson, UU minister? That's the wrong one. That's not me. Go back. So I had to find my exhibitor one. What else did we do? The Waffle Houses. Oh, the trips. Driving on the road. I mean, the weather could be incredible sometimes. I remember we were driving through Jacksonville, Florida, and we were going onto the on-ramp, and there was this sheet of water. I mean, it was like from here, nothing, just daylight. From here, this way, just a torrential rain. It was a solid wall of water we were driving through. It was amazing. We went to, I think we were going to Florida. So we met people. We met a really wonderful woman. He was like, people would call up through the cultural workers and volunteer for us to stay at their place. That way he could cut down on costs. And I would work for pretty much for free, pretty much for T-shirts and a little money, but mostly we were just having fun traveling with Dick. But we met this one woman, Deepa, in Orlando, and she's become a lifelong friend of ours. He was saying, oh yeah, she's a nice lady. We've never met her. She's got 2 big dogs, and I'm going, never met her? She's got these big dogs. Does she know I'm black? Is it going to be okay? Or she can stick the dogs on me? She's the most wonderful woman. She's a vegan, and she would cook for us. And, oh my goodness! Well, and we took her out. It was incredible. And then on the other side there was Dick. We played golf together whenever I come to Syracuse. I played golf with Dick. He was like the only person here now that I can sort of hang out with. I had the pleasure of being the chauffeur when Karen and Dick were the Grand Marshals at the Westcott Street Festival. That was a pleasure. Where did I put my water? My mouth is dry. At any rate. I'm gonna miss him. I was sitting in the TV room last night, and it was really, really hard not to have him there. I miss you, man.
Laughter and tears, it's what life is made of. So, I think Wendy has arrived. Yes, there she is. So we're going to have a few words from Wendy Hosta Myers, who I think has known Dick since she was a little one. Wenji is Eel Clan from the Onondaga Nation.
Nyohaskano Swakwigi. Feeling emotional at the moment. Karen called me, asked if I'd come and say some words about Dick. And I was going to write something. I was looking for a poem. I was looking for something. And I just thought of what a cool name, Dick Cool. Right? He was cool. He was very calm. And in Onondaga, he was Scano. In our word, Scano means peace. You know, and for knowing him, it wasn't just something he learned. It was his being. It was in every ounce, every cell of his body. He carried peace with him. I had the pleasure of 8 years of sitting on the committee, working on the calendar. And so when I first started, I didn't know what I was getting into. Because this calendar has been a part of my life, my entire life. Hanging on the wall in my mom's dining room, hanging on the cupboard in my grandmother's dining room and kitchen, and I always remember looking at the images, looking at the art, looking at the pictures. And I was always looking forward to see what was going to be the next month, what was the next year, what was the next calendar. And so when I got to come and sit at the table and learn so much from this amazing group of people, the first to take me under her wing was Marie. And I miss her a lot. And then Ray, you know, it's become a big family for me. Another extension of life, and I'm so thankful that I was given the space to put our voice out there with support and love and strength and knowledge. Give the Haudenosaunee, the Ongwehome people, not just for myself, but across Turtle Island. We would have discussions, you know, when we'd finish the calendar, it was like, it felt so amazing to see our work and to see, you know, the time that we took to look at all these images, and every year I'd come up with something, you know, and have great discussions with everybody in that room. And it was always wonderful listening to Dick, Andy, Ray, Marie, Karen, and then coming in with the new, you know, the new younger voices, and giving them a space to learn and share and bring in new topics, and always having a voice for every human being on this planet, every living, non-living, even up into the heavens. You know, we made sure that everything had a voice, the peace, the space. And so I'm going to miss that round table talking, which we had to go into Zoom, which was also, you know, a blessing that we could do that and still connect and talk. And there's such a huge legacy there. I mean, his work's everywhere, from t-shirts to yard signs and postcards, and, you know, it wasn't just him. He was a champion for all of us. And so I just wanted to come here and say Nyawaha for his friendship, for his kindness, for his Scano, for his peace, because he was always really cool, you know? But he was just always just so peaceful and loving and sweet. And so I'm thankful I have Karen and Cora, his legacy, his greatest legacy. And I hope to still carry on and, you know, be a big part of the calendar still, and make sure his work is still out there. So Nyawaha.
Please enjoy a further celebration of the calendar, words and music written by our very own Colleen Kataw and edited by Jim Dessauer.
Woven in peace and diversity, this calendar tells people's history. Day by day, a story on the wall, a reminder of what unites us all. Winter honors the mid-white black lives. March celebrates as raining weather rise. Radical change is what April demands. For all life on earth, young people take a stand. Day by day. Lessons of history that say we're not alone. Maize means workers' solidarity. Jews disrupts the binary. Disability rights in action, July will recognize. And for August, the right to vote shall never be compromised. Day by day, our stories on the wall, our shared struggle is what unites us all. To mourn and remember is September's call. Black lives matter, that is all. To keep the fragile balance is October's belief. And November knows this is indigenous territory. And so December brings us full circle round to reflect on how deep our roots go down. United by different ways to be. The calendar for peace holds the people's history. Day by day, months showed along inspiration to carry on. United by different ways to be. The calendar for peace tells the people's history.
Diku presente.
So, we would like everybody just to stand, if you're able to stand, move in other ways, whatever way you can, just to stretch a little bit, as we've been sitting for a while. There are restrooms through that door if you need it, but we are going to continue with the program pretty quickly.
What?
Maybe change the batteries in the microphone.
All right, everyone. We're going to sing a song right now. This song, Lullaby or I'll Keep Watch for a While, is a sort of favorite choir song to do at memorials. And it's to introduce the next part of the show, or the part of this program, which is you, the rest of you get to think about if there's something you would like to say. We'll have a roving mic, and we can walk around for a little while, or you can come up front and say it. But first we're going to sing Lullaby. I'll keep watch for a while, gentle friend.
Okay, stories, remarks, brief remembrances would be best.
My name is Jan Phillips, and I'm going to tell you about the conception of the Syracuse Cultural Workers. And I was living in California and had driven here to Syracuse, and the only thing I knew to do as a cultural activist was to go to the Syracuse Peace Council. So I bound into the Peace Council and announced that, hey, I'm a lesbian feminist photographer. What can I do? And it was Dick to whom I spoke these words. And he had just found out that the Peace Council was not going to publish any more of his cherished peace calendars. So he was miffed, and I think he recognized at the moment that there was another way out. So he said, I'm going to call a few friends and come to my house in the Westcott Nation tomorrow night, bring a bottle of wine. Under $10. We had an under $10 rule. He invited Jack Mano, Linda Perla, and Kerney. And the five of us sat around the table, and everyone said, these are my skills. Everyone agreed what we wanted to do was dedicate those skills for the good of the whole and use the arts to make whatever change we could make in the world. We decided to name ourselves the Syracuse Cultural Workers Project. So we were SCWP, which was a little clunky, hence the name change. But I would like to invite, right at the very early days, Karen was already operating her vision on the Rise Bakery, so she couldn't work. Linda Perla was already either in grad school or working as a librarian, so she couldn't work. And Jack Mano was doing Jack Mano things, so he couldn't work. So it was Dick and me. And we hired Brian Prendergast, who drove all the way here from Vermont. And I flew all the day yesterday from California because the man we're here to honor today has that much power still over our lives. So I would just like to have whoever here has ever been a worker at Syracuse Cultural Workers to come up and stand here with me so you could see what Dick Cool has wrought. Wow. Hey. Yes. See? Good for us. Good for us. Thank you. All right. All right. Keep up the good work. Keep supporting this organization. Dick Cool, presente.
I just want to go on the record. I'm Brian Prendergast, who Jan introduced me already. So I was a snot-nosed kid when I met Dick. Well, Ollie Clubb sent me to Dick. Hi, Ollie. I was kind of one of those kids post-college, didn't have any connection to like a place or, I was drifting. I was living in the Poconos, and I visited Syracuse for a wedding, and I stayed at a friend who I knew from college days, right across from Ollie, and it just so happened that Ollie's bike was broken and he was trying to ride it, and I bumped into him, helped him fix his bike, and he said, after telling Ollie that I was looking for a life, looking for something to do with my life, he said, "Go talk to Dick." And so I did, and I moved back up to Syracuse, and Dick kind of changed my life in a real way. He was a mentor. He was like one of the most soft-spoken, powerful men I've ever met. He didn't have to say a lot, but when he looked at you with those eyes, it's like, you're going to do it, all right? So thank you, Dick. Right.
Hi. I'm going to try not to cry too much. I have my Dick vest on today. I said, I never leave my house anymore. I haven't seen most of you in years, including Dick. And I said, what do I wear? And I happened to have this in there, and I said, I almost never did a show with that man without, he had the different ones. He had the wool ones, he had the fleece one. At the beginning of a show, the vest would go on, adorned with all the buttons, and I said, I got this cover. My name's Stacy Crandall. A lot of you know me, and a lot of other people all over know me as the show and festival person before Derek. For 6 years, actually, I did the shows and the conferences for the Cultural Workers. I fell into it accidentally, like most of us do. I had spent a lot of years as a mom and an activist in the neighborhood, but I had had so many friends for so many years. Everybody I knew, at some point, when they first came to Syracuse, when they first got out of high school, when they first whatever, everybody I knew had worked at Cultural Workers. And some had great stories, and some had not great stories, or less great stories, and it was a mix, but I got to know Dick and Karen actually first as co-parents. I met Cora first. I met Cora and Liz first as neighbors. Then slowly I got sucked more and more in. And before you knew it, Karen was hugely important in my life. And roped me into working with the med students at SUNY Upstate. And then next thing I knew, Dick, I fell into accidentally, one of Dick's assistants was a friend of mine. I did the Clearwater Festival, and the rest was history. For the next 6 years, I got a lot more credit than I was ever due, because I just happened to be the face that people saw out in public. The stories that I could tell are endless, as Rose knows. I did a lot of the shows on my own. Sometimes there were like 2 to 3 a month even for a couple years. So the big ones, Dick always went with me, and those were the best. Those were the best. When you spend 6 to 12 hours in a van loaded up with somebody, you learn a ton about each other. We talked about everything. And I don't have to say to anybody here how wonderful it was. That's why we're all here. But some of the highlights, some of the funny highlights, were spending 6 years walking into a venue, going up to get that name tag, "Where are you, Derek?" And sometimes I walked in and the tag said Dick Cool, and they said, "Well, you're not Dick." And I said, no. And then, of course, the second question is always, is that his real name? Yep, it is. And then everybody wants to know, even if he's not there for the weekend, they see me and they're just mystified about this man with this awesome name. And you know, I would do it up at some point in time. I mean, I heard the jail time and the conscientious objector stories over and over from different people. But at one point in time, somebody, I'm sure it was Dick, mentioned that he did have the privilege of playing basketball in prison with Jimmy Hoffa. Dude, I worked that story so many times. There's so many customers out there that think he's so much, even cooler than we all do. Because I'm like, yeah, he loved basketball so much. Anytime we went, we had to find an Econo Lodge because they're typically owned by non-American families, immigrant families. And I don't know why, but he found the secret that they always have a hidden back parking lot basketball hoop. So we're on the road for 6-7 hours. We pull over. I am dead tired. I am starving. His first priority is the basketball hoop. Second priority was always, and I loved him for this, food. I found Dick Cool to be quite the foodie. And whether it was the grimiest little middle American diner that I'm even questioning, should I walk in here? They were always excellent, though. It's a secret. Or pulling into Chicago at 11:30 at night, and he finds this fancy, bougie Italian restaurant that my poor self would have never walked in. And he's like, "Oh, we're getting food." And next thing I know, he's making me eat fish I would never eat otherwise because, you know, he's Dick. And Dick knows things, and he's wonderful. The white man confidence, I always joked with him about. We would play good cop, bad cop, only it's old white guy, cute little brown girl. So, you know, whether it's Maine or Washington or Chicago, we worked it. We would work it. We'd pull up to those big convention centers with all the Teamsters and the unions and the $1,000 fees. They wanted to charge this very important but struggling company, and no, we'd work it. We would work it. And we were a good team. If I'm not mistaken, we were almost birthday buddies. And both being hard-headed Capricorns, yeah, there were many battles about which order the posters should be in. Because once he put it down on paper, it was supposed to be. But I'm a Capricorn woman, so. Over the years, what can I say, but Karen knows I started calling her my spirit mom and Dick my spirit dad. Sorry, Cora, I'm too old to be your big sister. That's how I describe Dick Cool for the last 15 years to people who never met him. He's the dad I wish I'd had. And I loved him. And the world was not going to be the same without him. But it's a better place for all of us that got to know him. Right?
Place your head and so we'll be good, all right? Is there a fairy in the house that would like? Is there a fairy in the house that would like to speak?
Hi. For those of you who have never used a telephone book, my name is William. And I got to meet the Mahaly Cool family long before Kathy Berry and Gabriel made me my fairy wings. I had agreed to help out a church on the south side to put up posters that said, "Hope for the homosexual." And they were going to help homosexuals become normal. And I was hanging up the poster on Westcott Street when Karen Mahaly and Liz Cool came by and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm helping out a church and hanging up posters. Hope for the homosexual." I was really excited about it. And they said to me, "Well, homosexuals don't need help. They're good and they're fine. And we like them in our neighborhood. You can take your poster down. Thanks." Well, it was, and then they both looked at each other and sort of nodded. "That one, we'll see him again." Well, I don't get my wings out very much anymore, but I wanted to do it for Dick. My wings are getting sort of tatty and worn like myself, and I worry about when I go out for a flight having to crash on East Genesee Street here or somewhere. And the other thing I thought about doing is when I've gone down to the marches on Washington, I often did stilting, and I wanted in the worst way to put on my stilts and my Abraham Lincoln outfit that I marched with, because when I think about Dick, it seemed to me that he had the stature of a Lincoln in terms of bringing people together and trying to achieve equality for all. I took a photo to Dick early on. Come out, come out. Come out. A photo of John Burnside and Harry Hay. Again, for you that have never used a telephone directory, John Burnside and Harry Hay were two older men who loved each other, who started the Mattachine Society back in the 40s, early on. And I have this wonderful picture of Harry and John giving each other sweet kisses. And I thought maybe for the June Peace calendar that that they might be able to use that. And Dick was thrilled to see it and so pleased to put it in the calendar. And I can't tell you what it meant for both Harry and John, who were alive at that time, to receive a calendar from Dick with their pictures in it. And Dick was always offering up the kindness to old and young alike, and remembering us in special ways. And I just think, lastly, that peace work is hard. Learned that from not only Dick, but from my buddy Andy Major, and it's exhausting. And it's like oive, it's too much, and yet Dick to me was always a wonderful storyteller about peace and freedom and justice. And to me, Dick was the drop of joy in a sea of sadness. and he always showed up. He was always there. And, mazel tov to that. Great, great stuff. And I love Dick. And when I was thinking about Dick, too, I thought about all of the old queers that are around no longer, and they're somewhere over the rainbow, whether... and I think Dick is being hugged and squeezed and loved by them for all of the wonderful things that he has always done as a person who sees people for who they are and rejects the lies that are taught about them. And Dick also taught me that if people don't like me and they want to oppress me, well, then they're also going to oppress women, or they're going to oppress people of color, or the deaf, or it goes on and on and on. So that's all. Thanks. Bye.
We'll have time for 2 more, if anyone would like to take advantage.
So I'm Karen. I, like Brian, turned up at the Peace Council doorstep with a suitcase full of puppets, fresh out of school, ready to draw pictures. And it does bring tears to my eyes, because around that table, I learned so much, and not only at the Peace Council table, but around the dinner table. I was just welcomed as family and welcomed into a huge community, and I got to ice the cake. So I was part of brainstorming a lot of these ideas, but I got to take them to fruit, and it was a real joy and pleasure in my life, and feel blessed.
I'm a newcomer to the community, relatively. I was thinking about, people say that when an elder passes, a library has burned to the ground. And being present today, watching the community rise from the ashes has been a real gift. I really realized I miss Dick when I voted this last election, because I took my ballot and I sat down and I started to fill it out, and I thought, what the hell am I supposed to do? Because Dick was the one who always told me how I should vote. Oh, I'm Sally Rush Wagner. And I want to thank Dick for the way in which the Matilda Jocelyn Gage Foundation would not be where we are today if it had not been for his gift. Before I moved here to start the foundation in the home of Matilda Jocelyn Gage, Dick was an icon. And the Syracuse Cultural Workers, living in Sacramento, the Syracuse Cultural Workers were where we got our gifts, where we got the posters on our walls, where we got the cards that we sent. And to come to Syracuse and meet Dick was like meeting a celebrity. And then Karen and the community choir. Before I moved here, I had a sense of the uniqueness of this community. and the wonder of activism that encompassed more than I had ever seen in any other community, more than ours in Sacramento, and we were kicking ass pretty good. The coming here, and even before we started the foundation, began a partnership with the cultural workers. Kerney designed the cover of the reprinting of Matilda Jocelyn Gage's major work, Woman, Church, and State. We did the Haudenosaunee poster when I came here as the, help me with this, the Jeanette K. Watson Distinguished Professor of Women's Studies. It's a mouthful to get out, but coming here and then working with the cultural workers on that and getting this story.
From Syracuse University and the Watson family. I want you to know the history department was also, and I was chair of women's studies at this time. They, and you will not find it in the Chronicle of History, I've always apologized to Sally about this, that she ever happened. Although she was with us for 1 year doing all sorts of things. And that has to do as a tribute to Sally's work as in live historian, the first ever women's studies PhD in the nation. Thank you. Just a quick edit.
Right. Thank you, Beth. Thank you for bringing me. It was a great year of visibility. I think the story of the Haudenosaunee influence on women's rights is, I've had the honor of being part of telling that story, would not be out in the world as it is without the Syracuse Cultural Workers. And I just feel honored to be now a part of this community and to remember Dick, who was so much fun to go to movies with. He had great insights. And then being welcomed into the community when my partner and I were looking for a house, it was like, could we get one on Avondale? And Dick facilitated that, made that possible. And then being invited into this rich and deep community on Avondale has just been a wonderful thing in my life. And I will think of Dick every election when I will have to figure out for myself who I have to vote for.
All right, no one's going to follow the rule now. Yeah.
Hi, Ron Ehrenreich. I'm not going to sing. Indeed, I don't have any art or cultural talent or background, nothing that I could bring to the table or ever did. I have a history as an activist, going back to when I joined the civil rights movement when I was 13 years old, marched with Martin Luther King when I was 17, and have a history of doing that and more, and organizing things here in Syracuse, including Cooperative Federal and the Westcott CDC. And what I want to honor in Dick is that he inspired me to do more, to try more, to not get pushed back, to keep going, to reinventing what I was doing, and to not take no for an answer even from myself. I grew to love Dick and his extended family. I just want to express that gratitude here. He helped me to be what I am, to do what I did, and to aspire to what I still struggle to do, even though I'm retired now. So thank you, Dick.
Please join us for a reception after the blessing.
And we can talk more.
Reception is through this doorway in the back. After the blessing and the poem.
At the end. So I am introducing Jack Mano, who's going to read Blessing for Dick from his book of blessings, published by the Syracuse Cultural Workers. And just a little short personal story. When Jack and I moved to Syracuse I think it was around 1978, we were like, whoa, how do we get connected here? What do we do? And so we, of course, went to the Peace Council and met Dick. And Dick invited us to dinner. And we thought, yeah, great, we'll come to dinner. There were all these different people, and it was exciting. And little did we know that they were checking us out to see how we would fit in their community, because they were looking for 2 more people to move into the Grassroots Dandelion Collective. So through these 45 years, we have been family with the people, with Karen and other people, Dick and Cora and other people in the Grassroots Dandelion Collective. So pulled us in so close, our bedrooms were next to each other. So go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, Dick helped to make this book. So, and it's Birthday Blessing for Dick Cool. May you someday arrive at a world of murals where neighbor, I don't think I can, yes.
Okay. All right, you stand with me. Okay, this was written in 1998. His birthday is coming up. He would have been 80 years old on the 17th of December. Give me your hand. May you someday arrive at a world of murals where neighborly, right, and courageous acts are celebrated vividly on walls, walkways, basketball backboards, and bathroom stalls, where color runs riot and every human feature is made heroic. May you hit your groove and stay there, connecting at the right time with the right place, with people as matter of fact, forthright as yourself. May every sunrise seem as glorious as your daughter's laughter, and every sunset as peaceful as the calming rise and falls of waves and the deep breathing of her sleep. May you reside chatter-free, except for real goods well crafted with permanence and reliability in mind. May you keep time with a calendar where every day's square celebrates yet another reason to give thanks. May you live in a world that knows where everyone knows where its coffee is grown and insists that it be a good place to live. A world that will abide nothing less than integrity in all matters and forgiveness for those who slip. A world where every cultural work is marked by a joyful respect for people. And a world where such respect surprises no one. May your sky be always interesting, where gray days rumble and refresh and then break open, handing you a personal invitation to lie down and bare your skin to the sun. May you be remembered at least as well as you remember others. Be considered as well as you're considerate. Be carried with arms as steadfast as those you hold out to the world. So may it be.
Mother and daughter. Sunita. Hello, hello. One of Dick's favorite poems.
The Low Road by Marge Piercy.
What can they do to you? Whatever they want. They can set you up. They can bust you. They can break your fingers. They can burn your brain with electricity, blurry with drugs till you can't walk, can't remember. They can take your child, wall up your lover. They can do anything you can't stop them from doing. How can you stop them? Alone, you can fight, you can refuse, you can take what revenge, you can do that, but they will roll over you. But two people fighting back to back can cut through a mob. A snake dancing file can break a cordon. Any army can meet an army.
Two people can keep each other sane, can give support, conviction, love, massage, hope, sex. Three people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With four, you can play bridge and start an organization. With six, you can rent a whole house, eat a pie for dinner with no seconds, and hold a fundraising party. A dozen make a demonstration. 100 fill a hall. 1,000 have solidarity in your own newsletter. 100,000 your own media. 10 million your own country. It goes on one at a time.
One at a time.
It starts when you care to act.
When you care to act.
It starts when you do it again after they say no.
After they say no.
It starts when you say we and know who you mean.
We.
And each day you mean one more.
One more.
So we're all going to sing together now a song by Pat Humphries. And then we're all going to go to the other room and sit around and have some treats and talk to each other more about our lives and our connection to Dick. So Pat's watching as we on Facebook right now. So let's start singing Swimming to the Other Side. We'll sing it with you, but sing loud.